Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, you're training for a rating, or just thinking about getting started in aviation, I like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. My name is Ben, and I am a pilot with an IFR rating and a commercial certificate, and may just have that for the rest of my life. I don't know. I am based in the metro Atlanta area, and I fly a Cessna 182. We like to call the Beast, and I would be perfectly happy with just those two ratings. Joining me tonight, it's my friend. It's my yin to my yang, a good dude, a student. He's also a private pilot in Nashville, which is home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. He flies a Cherokee 180. We like to call Lucy. It's our friend, Brian. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Super happy to be here tonight. And thanks for that lovely introduction. It was very benevolent and kind. And I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop as we do. But actually, I thought you were just introducing Mark first. But anyway.
Spoiler alert.
All right. We're just glad to be here.
I'm glad you're with us. Also joining us from the West Coast in this small little city of Portlandia. It's our favorite sport pilot who flies a Flight Design CTLS. We call the egg. It's our friend, Tedder. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing really well. Glad to be here.
Nice. We're glad to have you. Also joining us tonight, it's our favorite secret fourth host who is on air this week. He's located in North Carolina. He's an avid low winger. It's our friend, Wendell Geek, or if you're from the South, it's Wendell Geek. Good evening, sir.
Hey, Ben. Hey, Ted. Brian, how are you guys?
Doing great.
Yeah,
we're really good. I appreciate you asking. Yeah, so tonight, a little bit of change of plans. You know, this is, we have to pivot sometimes. Some last minute things happen. And we thought, since Brian is in the midst of IFR school and Ted is IFR curious, we were going to do a grill the IFR rated pilot. And so I decided, I really need somebody that's also very book smart and has recently gone through his IFR training. And so we brought our referee, our friend Geek on to join us.
You just didn't want to be outnumbered, did you?
I really didn't. Yeah. And quite frankly, I could be rusty in a lot of these areas. So I'm a little nervous about it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, to be clear, yes, we are going to be probably challenging you guys a little bit because, you're so cool, but no, part of this really was born of a conversation that we were having about, from an IFR instrument rating ground school perspective. Now that I've been through private and then seen what the real world is and how much do you remember from your ground school written, from private. And a lot of those things are super intrinsic and built in, but maybe some of those things maybe you can let them kind of take a back seat for a minute. I'm just curious about, with all of this new knowledge that I'm learning from a ground school perspective for IFR, I just can't help but wonder how much of this is real world versus fake world.
Well, interestingly enough, my son is in flight training right now, and he has been studying for the private written. And he's been asking me questions, and I'm like,
Do you have some examples of that?
yeah. So like if the CG is aft on the airplane, what does that do to the stall speed? Like, well, it's going to increase it or decrease it. I'm not sure I remember which.
It's one thing that I've always said, which is there are kind of 3 levels of knowledge you need. The first is you need to pass the test. Throw away that knowledge. Now work on your check ride. There's the knowledge you need for the check ride. This isn't completely related to the test. Once you're done with that, load up your brain with the knowledge you need to fly. And those 3 can be completely different things. As a VFR pilot, I know that. Looking at IFR, I only take what I know and assume that might be true in the IFR world. And I know I can make some guesses on places that's true. But that's what we brought Mark on was we're never speaking from a point of authority here. We're speaking from a point of experience. And so if all we're doing is asking Ben questions, he's answering from his experience. But we know that can vary. And both Ben and Mark are fantastic IFR pilots. And so they're great people to have on and ask these questions of things that we've seen and how that compares to real life.
True. And also, I look at the thing I was talking to you guys about earlier, where it's like, okay, now I know what my airspeed limits are if I'm on an Air Force base, like that's great. But I also just, to me, one of the reasons why I did very poorly in school is, well, one, because I'm just not very intelligent, and then the other part of it is that I don't try very hard. But aside from those things, I'm a bad test taker historically, always. And I also do not do well swimming around in minutia of knowledge without practical application. And, most people would agree, doing something is how you learn and all that stuff, but we're not talking about really the learning. We're kind of straddling their trapezing between ground school and being already out there. And that's kind of what I think is interesting to me. I think it might help me, I don't know, put some meaning to some of these things. I'm kind of looking to you guys for maybe a little bit of help. So
I would first tell you, don't sell yourself short. You are a tremendous slouch. So, I do think it is overwhelming. And I've said this before on the podcast. My motto in high school and college was 2-0 and go. I'm with you, Brian. I'm not a very good test taker, but I do like this premise. Why don't we hit our Ted, give us a update on the Patreons real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll let the fun and mayhem begin.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure to give some highlights this week. It's been technically 2 weeks since we recorded. So I'd like to thank some people that we've got that joined us at the Hershey Bar level in Patreon, and that is Matt T. And Dave, who has upgraded. Dave is also known as Late Blooming Pilot, which is a name for all of us, I believe. In Discord, there have been a couple of celebrations or achievements that I saw in there. Mr. Easy G passed his private check ride.
Yeah, congratulations.
Awesome.
Yep.
He's down by in Louisiana. So,
yep.
And he then, the next accomplishment that he shared was he took his wife up for his first passenger and their first ride. So he said, my first passenger, of course, was my wife, who supported me throughout all my lessons, including buying a plane and upgrading avionics. Well done.
Yeah.
We can't go without mentioning that Alyssa soloed. That's a big deal.
I know.
Oh,
it's huge.
A helicopter. So you got to solo something else. That's fantastic.
So huge.
Checkmate Barry shared a picture of him flying his adult daughter for the first time, and that was great to see. Always love it seeing the kind of the selfie pictures of flying with friends, flying with with your daughter for the first time, those types of things. That's what it's all about.
Yep. I totally agree. Before we, Brian, did you want to hit the belly scrub real quick?
All right, you guys got your stopwatches out? We're just going to knock this out.
Do it.
All
All right, you ready? All right. We're grateful for all of you making this the best pilot community that we know of, a positive space where we share everything from training experiences, share personal minimums, tackle ownership challenges, review flight plans, and best of all, we make new aviation friends. Connect with us, join our Patreon community, $1 a month, or do a one-time annual Patreon, 25 cents per episode, access exclusive content, including check ride debriefs, killing zone conversations, and more. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. Watch us live on YouTube Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Share your stories. We read all the messages. You might even hear yours on the show. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, community feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com.
Damn, that was really good. I do want to give a quick look at
I had
there.
22. It depends on how you.
I've got it under 30 now, though. I couldn't get it under 30 before. That's pretty good. Okay.
It's fun listening to that at 4X or at 2X, by the way. That is quite
I'm going to try
entertaining.
that. When we publish this, I'm definitely going to check that out. I do want to give one quick shout out before we get started. We were supposed to have a friend of the show, Scott, on. He's a Nashville controller. We just wish him well. He wasn't able to make it tonight, and we want him. He's got a spot on here whenever he's able to come back, and want you to feel better soon. So.
What's amazing is he found something that was more important than guest hosting a podcast for zero compensation and zero upside. I don't know how that happened.
Controllers have copious spare time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Working 6 days a week all the time. But no, I mean, he's fine. He was having something worked on, I guess, that had to do with like getting better, not because he was sick or something. And he was going to do it while, he was going to do the show
while he was under the knife.
Anyway, we'll have him on soon. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk to him about too, about, there's some more changes happening around here, but also just, more broad-based controller questions. And, as I dig into the instrument world more, I have more questions. Anyway, awesome.
Very cool. So what we're going to do this, I guess the format we've chosen to do this is that maybe Brian and Tedder can take turns lobbying out questions about IFR, and then Wendell Geek and I can take turns in responding. And, Mark, I'll watch for you if you want to jump in first, knock yourself out. And we'll go from there. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I just want to keep it focused on ground school, because it can get into, it's a lot of stuff. And I'm in the ground. I am self-interested in the subject matter of this show benefiting my effort. And by the way, shout out to our friend Erica Gilbert for allowing me to even be in her IFR masterclass that you can check out on her website. So,
but real quick, Wendell Geek, did you find the answer to what happens to stall speed when you're?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't look it up. I didn't care.
Okay, it decreases for whatever it's worth.
But your cruise speed increases as the plane gets loaded to the tail.
It does.
That part I did know. That part I did answer him. I want to make a comment on Erica's class. I took the class as a refresher the previous session, and I loved it. It was great. It was I really enjoyed it. So
Mark, I know that you did the kind of express route, the cram, get your ticket in 5 days, your IFR in like 5 days. Ben, what was your experience on getting your instrument?
Quite the opposite. I started in, I think it was July I started in earnest in late August, early September of 2018, and passed management check ride in February of 19.
Okay.
So it's Part 61 school, same place I did my private. It was still a privately run school at that point in time. And mostly Part 61 students, unlike now where it's mostly Part 141 students. So, and new ownership. But yeah, that was mine.
Well, Brian, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Yeah. So, and this is me just I may or may not already kind of know fully what these things are or have some level of knowledge, but maybe not total. But the good news is I don't have to have any knowledge. I can just be looking at this sheet of paper I have and then just say words. And then the impetus is on you guys to actually have something to say about it. This is fantastic.
You're feeling really good about this, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm feeling this is great.
Should we shout out what the sheet of paper is that you're using? Because
no, I can't because it's a proprietary thing. No. See?
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I really wish that the podcast audience, listeners, people in the chat could see what our private chat looks like. That we are sending stuff to each other while we're doing this. It can be very out of control. Okay. All right. My first thing, and Ben actually was talking about this on the phone with you this week.
Yep.
So let's talk about, and part of this is that I am such a language person and a visual learner that when I get into acronym soup, it can be problematic because my brain is looking for patterns or rhymes or reasons about things that are not really present. So let's talk about MOCA versus ROCA. MOCA, minimum obstruction clearance altitude. ROCA, off-route obstruction clearance altitude. So both of those at a glance have something to do with things sticking up off the ground, but they're different things. Let's go.
Well, Brian, I kind of feel like I'm at a debate with. I'm glad you asked that question. No, so this is my understanding of it, and do not take this as instruction. I think there was a point in time in the IFR world where everything was on Victor Airways, and you're going from VOR to VOR. And that's where the MOCA really kind of comes into play there. We live in the GPS world now, where nobody flies Victor Airways. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's people do fly Victor Airways, but there is some portion, if not a lot of it, that's going to be off route. So this morning or today was a off route flight. I think I've done, I'd say probably 20% of my flights in IFR contain Victor Airways. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what Mark's is. And I'll tell you, it's only when I'm going over terrain that scares me is when I'm using those Victor Airways or when I file for them.
Okay. So, and I want to go down that path a little bit more, but just to make one distinction here that's really clear is that the MOCA is about navigation.
That's
and
right.
The ROCA is about your plane not hitting stuff. Is that fair?
No, I don't think so. The MOCA is about not hitting stuff also, but the MOCA is the not hitting stuff when you're on an airway. The ROCA
within the range of nav aid.
That's correct.
Yeah, when you're on a Tango airway or a Victor airway, that is where the MOCA applies. The ROCA is when you're off the airways. It's kind of like the same thing. Those numbers in the sectional where you've got this is the minimum safe altitude across that entire square. The ROCA is the same thing for an IFR square.
So that would be the MEA.
No. MEA is also tied to an airway.
Maybe somebody in the chat can
wait. I'm sorry.
what the VFR
wait,
was.
I forgot. Wait, this is going back to VFR though. On a sectional, when you got the quadrant, what is that?
I forget what it's called. I thought it was the minimum safe altitude or minimum.
There's a number that's just usually 2 digits, and it's kind of like magenta in color.
Yeah.
And it's just telling you what the highest obstacle in that quadrant is.
Right. No, I know, but I'm saying, but what is the acronym for what that thing is?
Got it.
I don't
it's,
do
it's,
acronyms.
It's MEF.
MEF, that's what it is. Minimum elevation figure. Or maximum elevation figure. Yeah,
so, I mean, but these are all basically the same number, just over different slices of land, right?
By the way, can I just pause here and say this is going to be the worst episode that we've ever done. We have nobody that knows what they're talking about.
This is proof that we don't.
That's what this is about. We're just going to hack through it. So when you're listening to this and you're going, oh my gosh, well, I've been listening to these guys for 80, 100, 140 episodes. Why have I been doing that?
On the plus side, we can always give anybody like who's illusioned, we can always point them to this episode and say, get straight. Here's how you get straight.
Yeah.
That's just the scared straight for you. Exactly. Aviation idiocy.
Do you think you have imposter syndrome? These guys actually fly planes. So legally. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so a lot of these acronyms are just when I'm looking at this and it's like you've got MAA, MCA, MDA, MEA, MOCA, MORA, MRA, MVA, ROCA. My brain goes cross-eyed. That's all I'm saying.
Well, here's what I would say. Of all those that you just mentioned, I think there's a couple that I think are a little bit more important. I would say MRA, minimum reception altitude.
Sure.
Now, it's pretty low where we live on the East Coast, and you're not in mountains. It's not as big a concern when you get into mountainous terrain. You got to start worrying about it a little bit. It's also with the MVA as well. That's one that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that it's a ROCA when I was in an area in Wyoming and she told me that the minimum IFR altitude in this area was 13,000 feet. Because if you were en route, it could be 8,000 feet. But the ROCA is going to be the highest number because it's like, if they tell you to go direct to something, it might be going over a pointy bit in that basically quadrant, right? So
here's the other thing that I would mention, and our friends at Opposing Bases you'll hear pilots in airliners, I don't know if it's airliners, but regularly say, I'd like to get to this altitude. And then you'll hear the controller come back on and say, that's below the MVA or minimum vectoring altitude.
Yeah.
Because it's on those IFR charts, but nobody ever looks at it. So the pilots don't know what
Actually, I don't think the MVAs are published.
Yeah, they may not be.
Yeah. So they're not on IFR.
It's an LOA thing?
Yeah. I mean, they're published somewhere.
Yeah.
But they're not on
I think they're more for controllers and not for us actual users of the NAS.
I've seen those in an area of around the Olympics in Washington, and it's like it looks like you were putting clay onto a map and then flattening it. It's like all these little sections and what their altitudes are. So it's not like, oh, in this quarter it's this high or this low. Like they're crazy shapes because of the mountains and everything else.
Right. Outside of those acronyms, Brian, I mean, obviously you got to worry about DA, MDA, but those are more about landing. So anyway.
Well, I would say like the ones that stand out to me are MEA and MRA. Those are all on a route. So those always apply to a route. The MEA is the minimum en route altitude. And essentially what it means is that it's the altitude at which you will get reception at some point to one of the VORs. One of the VORs will give you reception at that altitude that you're going between. And so that's an important one to know. The MRA is only applicable if you're using a VOR that's not on the route to like identify a point on the route. And so that's the minimum reception altitude you have to be in order to identify that other VOR to identify a waypoint.
How often are you doing that?
Almost never. But it's good to know. It's good to know because those are the,
And when you do it, do you need to? Or is it
probably
because
not? If I have a working
in
GPS,
flight and you're
no.
bored? Yeah.
If I have a working GPS, no.
Yeah.
There's another one, which is a minimum crossing altitude, which there are some waypoints that you, along a route, that you have to be at or above the minimum crossing altitude when you're crossing that waypoint.
Is that the zigzag that I see on a?
No, that's when you flip. That's if you're doing two VORs. It kind of looks like a. I don't know how to describe it. I really don't know how to describe it. It's a straight line, then a horizontal line, then a straight line, then a horizontal line. And that's the cross. That's when you switch the VORs. So if you're going on a Victor Airway and you pass that little squiggly line thing, that's when you say, okay, this is the point where I need to switch to the other VOR.
Right. It's when you tune your radio.
Have you guys flown an MLS approach?
Nope.
That's to go to soccer games?
I would struggle to tell you what kind of an approach that is, to be honest with you. I don't even know what MLS approach is.
It's I'm going to lovingly call it the Stofers approach. It is the microwave landing system.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Approach.
The Stofers. Okay.
You can't call it a what was the Hungry Man? Those you did those in the oven because you didn't want to mess up the brownie. The brownie was really
brownie was the big deal, dude.
Can't mess that up.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's back when you got a TV dinner and like a giant piece of cancerous metal that you just bake in your oven for an hour and a half to eat 4 ounces of food.
So I want to ask Mark the question though: how often are you flying a Victor Airway? I already said it's about 20% of the time for me.
So there are some. If I fly up to New York from Charlotte, IFR, if I don't file the Victor Airway, they're going to give me a reroute to the Victor Airway.
Okay.
So I kind of know that there are certain places where they're like, okay, we want you on a Victor Airway here. Florida's another one where they want you on a Victor Airway. So those places, generally speaking, I will file a Victor Airway because historically I know that they've given them to me. And, some of those reroutes are long. They are long. And and when I get them, I'm really glad I don't have the 430 series GPS because that would be such an unbelievable pain in the butt to program.
Imagine having the 430 series and then accidentally turning off your avionics in flight.
Anyway, so yes, I do occasionally file Victor Airways where I know from experience that they are going to give it to me. As a general rule, no.
If it's not a, what is the word that I'm looking for?
Letter of agreement?
Expected. Like I know Garmin Pilot and ForeFlight have, popular routes that, this is probably what you're going to get. Expected routes is the word that I was trying to come up with. So yeah, I'm kind of the same way is that I'm following that most of the time. So,
well, okay, I'm going to step back a little bit here.
Step back a little bit, please.
Okay. I find it interesting. Most people will tell you, actually, let me ask you, Ben, did you use Shepherd Air for the instrument written?
I did use Shepherd Air for the instrument.
Mark?
Written.
I started and then did not. I decided that I did not like it.
Okay, this is fascinating to me because I have tried and everything about using Shepherd Air to me, what it tells me is all of the energy that you're putting into this is just the exact amount of BS that all of this is. Right? Like it delegitimizes the entire thing. I would rather just struggle. I would rather make a 75 on my own instead of just memorizing a bunch of patterns and making a 95. I don't know. So
here's the one thing that I'm going to disagree with you on.
Okay, great. Please do.
So there are parts. It's just like your private. There are parts.
It's like a private
you're
parts?
never going to use again. But there are parts that you absolutely need to know how to do.
Yeah, of course.
You need to know about holding patterns.
Shepard's not going to teach you anything. Shepard's just going to teach you which answer to identify based on some idiosyncratic numeric
There's
thing.
going to be some questions about what entry are you gonna do into this hold based on this position?
Right.
That's
Yeah,
not part of the Shepherd Air.
And there are some things, there are some questions that are kind of tricky questions that Shepherd helps you like realize or gives you, this is the correct answer, but don't think too much, because if you think too much, you're going to confuse yourself as to what the correct answer is.
Yeah.
Because the questions are tricky. And so Shepherd helps in that area.
Yeah.
But my personal opinion on Shepherd was I thought it was teaching me to memorize and not teaching me the skills. And I didn't like that.
Let me step back for people who are working on their private or working on their sport and haven't gone past that. Shepherd is used at the instrument level, commercial, everything beyond that. And it is explicitly about teaching the test, about getting you to pass the test. It's not about here's how to fly IFR, here's how to, get through your commercial, anything like that. It's exclusively about those tests. And so it shows you a lot of the trick questions and helps you kind of memorize that and everything else. But it means you're not learning when you do that.
And if anybody's confused, we are obviously not sponsored by Shepherd.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing, though, and I'm going to
not likely to be.
For my ground school and any other ground school, and I'm not. This is not a dig on the ground schools, but you don't go to the ground school to learn how to fly IFR.
Nope.
So I mean, it's all part of the same thing. So yeah, Shepherd teaches you how to take the test. But
you do go to a ground school not just to pass the test. You also go to it to learn the academic knowledge, which so that's my thing about 3 different levels, right? Is the test, what you need for check ride, and what you need to actually fly it. And Shepherd is for the test only.
It was funny. They did a IFR ground weekend, like a cram session when I was going through it. They hosted it at my flight school. And I knew the 2 owners of the flight school pretty well. It was a lot of fun to hang out with them. And this class had, I was one of 2 guys that were over the age of 40, and everybody else was in their late teens, early 20s. And the teacher was probably 80 years old and has been teaching the same class for 30 years. And these kids were asking these questions, and it was making me insane because they were trying to learn how to fly IFR in this ground school. And then they kept getting off on these tangents. And this class was supposed to take 2.5 days, and it took 3.5 days because of these nice young kids who were very curious. I'm going to be nice about how I say it. But it was funny that they took it that seriously and that they were trying to understand how their flight training was going to go through a ground school.
We should read this from Michael Gillette here. The trick with Shepherd Air is this: get a question wrong, stop and read and learn it. If you know it, move on. Don't waste your time learning things you already know. And he goes on to say, it's how medical students memorize vast rivers of info. You have to stop when you get something wrong and learn it.
I really like using that strategy because you can use that to learn at the same time as you're learning how to pass the test and find out where your weak points are. So I remember doing not only for my sport, but just in other things in life where use those practice tests to learn what you're missing and take advantage of that. But again, treat them as those 3 separate things. So
okay, I have another question for you guys. There are certain things that I think are matters of preference or widely vary upon what aircraft you're flying. If you're talking about instrument scans, for instance, the textbook might have different interpretations of what your scan should be or what the first thing is that you should look at versus what you would do in your plane. Not following?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, so I'll back up. So when you enter you're in IMC, you enter a turn, what is the first instrument you look at in your scan to see?
Attitude.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I will say, to take it a slightly different direction, it varies significantly if it's a glass cockpit or a six-pack. That's a big deal.
So they're trying to make it where it's kind of the same, but as I think it was Flint in our class basically said something like, well, I mean, there's a reason why they made the attitude indicator this gigantic thing on the screen, and then everything else is kind of small. It's like, should you kind of look at that? But there's other things that were basically saying that you would actually look at your DG to confirm the direction of turn, then go and look at the degree of bank, etc. You know,
so
you want to confirm you're turning the right direction first, then to what extent, or you know, I don't know. There's these different.
If I'm an IMC,
yeah,
the first thing I look at is I'm assuming I'm going into IMC straight and level. And so as soon as I go into IMC, I want to see, am I straight and level? Am I still straight and level? That's the first thing I want to know. And then the second thing I want to know is, am I on course? Yes. Am I on course? Do I have sufficient airspeed? Yes. Do I have, right? I mean, there's just a host of things that I want to know, and you just sort of look for them. Like,
sure. But what I'm saying, like, once you're in the groove though, you're in cruise, no more configuration changes. There's nothing coming up for another, you know, if you're in Ted's plane or whatever, there's nothing coming up for like another 17 hours. and so you're just hanging out, and you know, the only thing you might be looking for is like what you're going to pee in or whatever. If you're in Ted's world. So I guess I'm just curious in terms of just the actual scan. Well, let me ask, what scans do you guys use? Do you have like which name brand scan do you use?
I subscribe to the Hub and Spoke.
Okay.
Well, I have
it's like the Marlboro Man of scans.
I have a G5, so it's pretty easy to maintain the scan in a very small area, right? I mean, but basically it's hub and spoke in a much reduced area.
A lot less real estate to cover. Not like in my plane though. Yeah, it's attitude and then DG or HSI in my case. And then I'll glance over at the VSI and then back to attitude. I'll look at airspeed every now and then, but not very often. And then I'll go back to attitude and I'll go look at the turn coordinator, just make sure I'm staying coordinated.
All right. So how valuable has it been for you to understand NDB service volume classes?
Extremely. I use it every other day. It is the most effective and foolproof. It's never going to die. The planet
is on the test,
destroyed.
Right? Isn't it on the test?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, okay. That's great. Wait, there's just.
So what approaches do you fly?
So because my airplane has the avionics set that it has, it is difficult to switch to do an ILS. It's easy to fly the ILS, but the going missed involves like 3 extra steps that are kind of a pain in the butt to have happen. And so I never fly an ILS in actual real world IMC. I fly RNAVs pretty much exclusively because that's what lowers my workload in a high stress, high workload environment. And so I pretty much only fly those. Now I practice ILSs in practice. I don't think I have done a VOR approach since my check ride.
Yeah. So I'm let's get Flint real quick. He said, asking Wendell Geek, is your G5 primary instrumentation in your plane? Is that
so it is primary for attitude. It is primary for a number of things, but it is secondary for airspeed. It is secondary for VSI. It is not primary for a number of things that like a GI 275 is primary for, which would be really nice. But I mean, it does have a pitot port, and the airspeed that it reports matches exactly what the primary one reports. So my scan does occasionally slip over to the primary attitude instruments to verify. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much look at the G5 because it's really easy.
I had brought that up.
Yeah, very occasion, right? Like
I had brought that up in the course because when you're thinking about your scan, if you're a person that's got G5s and some things are primary and some things are secondary, then how do you develop your own weird scan for primary instruments that are steam gauges?
So in my airplane, the airspeed indicator is just to the left of the G5 and the altitude is just to the right of the G5. And interestingly enough, in the G5, the airspeed is on the left-hand side and the altitude is on the right-hand side. So it's really not that far to every so often just corroborate and say, hey, we're saying the same thing.
Answer honestly, Geek. How many times have you forgotten to set the altimeter on your quote unquote primary altimeter?
I will say I have forgotten to set the altimeter a couple of times in recent memory, but probably a handful, a very small handful of times. But interestingly enough, when we took our airplane to get its IFR check, the pedostatic altimeter check, the accuracy of the G5 is 0 errors across the board, whereas the accuracy of the primary instrument is +5, +10, -5. It's all over the place. Yeah. So from an accuracy perspective, even though it's not primary, it's more accurate.
Yeah.
So for me, it's similar story, but for different reasons. My plane handles the automation on RNAVs a lot better. The autopilot flies the RNAVs a lot cleaner and neater. I do fly ILSs a lot just because I want to hand fly those approaches. I do them in instrument conditions. It's not as much if I have to go missed that because my gauges are not, I'm still on 1980s technology. So it's a little less work on my side, I think.
Also, the plane is 1980 technology.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 1968 plane living in 1980. So, I mean, it's forward. It's just not that far forward. So, but yeah, that's kind of me. Listen, RNAV minimums are pretty close to what the ILS minimums are these days for the most part. Most of them are getting you down to 200 feet. What'd you say, Mark?
RNAVs are everywhere. They're everywhere. Yeah. Like, ILSs are hard to find and getting harder to find.
You go into the bigger airports, they'll be there.
True.
Those aren't going anywhere.
But they may only be to one runway or one direction,
that could be. Yeah.
It was less VOR approach you did.
I did a VOR in the McCollum. We have a VOR alpha approach into runway 9. Circle to land. It was probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
Have you done, both of you, whatever, I'll have the term wrong, but NDB arcs?
Well, DME arcs, I think is what you're referring to.
Yeah.
I enjoy those. I suck at them, but I enjoy them. There's one up in Chattanooga that I like to go fly when they're landing runway 02. So
I only know that because
working? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. There's only one around here that exists, and I happen to know about it. Otherwise, I'd have no idea.
Yeah. So it could be an NDB, it could be a VOR, it could be an ILS that has an arc. Actually, I don't think an RNAV has an arc. I don't know.
I've never seen an arc on an RNAV.
No, but they're usually just 90-degree right-hand turns is the way they get you to the final approach course. So
aren't markers sort of gone now?
Yeah, but we have my audio panel that our friend Lord Alpha Julia just loves. He calls it the Cuisinart. Actually, it will play if there's an active marker. You'll hear the beep, beep, beep as you cross over.
Yeah. I've got lights. I got the lights for them.
There's those 3 lights, and I've seen those on audio panels, and it's like, that's all I know about them.
Hey, Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can get them to work there as well. I mean, just about every single time. I think the default is to have that audio turned on. So
generally speaking, just kind of backing up, if you're talking to some numbnut like me or some others, that are banging through this ground school and, have cursory experience and this and that and the other. But I just want to know how much, if you had to say like what percentage of this is applied in your actual IFR flying? Or do you even, like if you took the written today, would you pass it?
Good question.
I would say probably not.
Without studying?
I think I could squeak by with a 70. I think there'd be some guessing going on, but I think I could make it happen.
So
Brian, it's different. I want to ask you, and I'll come to another conclusion, but how much of your VFR training did you actually use, once you passed your test? I mean, how much did you toss away?
I don't remember anything.
And so that's kind of where.
Oh, and I remember things. I do get a little, like I have to dig. My recall is just not there. It's like, oh wait, 3152s. Wait, just.
But that's the point I'm trying to make. How often are you having to know your cloud clearances?
We can't talk about that.
Why not?
They're always 2,000 feet away.
It's always exactly.
It's weird, isn't it?
I have a laser measurer.
Yeah.
That I just point out. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, that's
you understand my point.
Like a lot of these things are just abstracts anyway. It's like, okay, can you tell me how far that cloud is from you?
Yeah, I can, because I'm really good at that stuff. But no, what I was going to say is understanding holds is great, but what I feel like is more important is knowing how to program those holds into my Garmin 430 WAS.
Mm-hmm.
I need more, currency on that.
Yeah.
But
I got to figure out how to not program. I need to figure out how to get the hold out. That's what I'm not. Yeah. Anyway.
So it's kind of like an initiation. Everybody has to go through it.
Yeah.
You have to get dunked. You have to get smacked around.
When's the last time that either you were told to fly a hold? Like not instructionally.
Oh, like a non-published hold?
No, I mean just to come in because you're waiting for it. I mean, not with an instructor who's trying to get you to.
What I will tell you is, last time I was assigned, it was actually a procedure turn in lieu of a hold, because there was a plane going in. So for those that you don't know, at an uncontrolled airport, no tower, it's one in, one out when it's IFR. So you can't go in until that person is canceled. And so I got put into the hold procedure turn at the initial approach fix, waiting for somebody to cancel. That's probably happened to me since 2019. It's probably happened to me 4 times.
Yeah.
And
no hold, but just
years.
Procedure turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked for them because you need to do procedure turns to get your currency. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I always do. There's always one approach on my currency where I do a hold in lieu of procedure turn in order to count it as a hold, right? Because it's part of the 6 hits things that you have to do. But I have never been given a hold apart from in training. And one of my experience so far has been, there's been a couple of times where I thought I was going to get a hold, and instead what they do is they just give me vectors. To give me vectors around tarnation all over the place. And then they eventually clear me for the approach. Right. So I thought though there were both those times were absolutely set up for I'm expecting a hold, and I didn't get one.
From my experience of hearing that's what I hear is being vectored.
I guess I'm just lucky. It was 2 of the 4 times were angel flights.
Which airports?
Noonan, and there was one in North Carolina, or maybe it was in South Carolina. I can't remember.
Carolinas,
Yeah,
I mean,
damn Carolinians.
Actually, I just remembered a time when I was flying into New York, and we were they would have passed me off to Newark approach, because that was where they would have passed me off. But they said, hey, Newark's radar is down. you can either cancel and go VFR, or we can put you in a hold. I chose VFR.
Oh, well, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer there.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, there's two things that I want Mark to say, and they're things that he had said to me. The first is talking about training for instrument flying versus actual instrument flying. So yeah, you want to say that, Mark?
Yeah. So training for instrument flying, you spend all of your time under the hood. You're under the hood the whole time. And actual instrument flying, you spend most of your time trying to avoid that, right? Like trying to figure out, well, where can I see if I'm going around here, I want to get out of the cloud so I can see the danger, right? And so in actual instrument time, you just don't spend as much time under the hood.
Yeah.
Or you don't spend that much time like blinded.
Right. You're trying to escape it.
Yes,
yeah.
Correct.
And then the second thing is because I've started to try to read instrument plates, and I was asking you some questions about what does it mean when it says 200/18, and it was 1,800 feet RVR, which is instead of saying visibility distance, it's runway visibility distance, and which is just all that stuff gets really, really strange, especially when you're looking at like fairly esoteric plates. And so you were telling me about ILS plates versus RNAV plates.
Yeah, they're really different. I mean, if you pull up a random ILS plate, there's going to be this feather on it that is not on an RNAV plate. And it's like, what the heck is that feather, right? Why is that there? And I mean, I know why it's there, because it sort of defines the direction of the signal that the ILS is shooting out, right? But you don't see that on an RNAV plate. And so since I fly RNAVs all the time, ILSs are they're kind of, the analogy is kind of like if you're used to speaking American English, it's like going to Australia. Like, okay, I kind of recognize most of what you're saying, but some things are weird.
That's not a knife.
Here's the other thing, and I would guess Wendell Geek, he'll be very similar. ILSs require timing, or a lot of them do. I guess they all do. And I always forget. I always forget to start the stopwatch. So once you cross over a certain fix, then, it's so many minutes and seconds until you reach the final approach fix. And, and I always forget it, which is why I like, I agree with Mark. RNAVs are just simpler. So,
well, let me just say that this has been massively informative, although this entire episode could be characterized as a false glide slope, in a metaphor. Thank you for everybody's insights. I just to me, just kicking this stuff around, that's the beauty of the community, and that's the beauty of learning and being all in this thing. Everybody's at different points, figuring it out. Nobody gets laughed at, or at least people don't laugh at me.
To your face.
To my face. Yeah, right.
We do it behind your back. Yeah.
Yes. And that is the beauty of this community, is it's very passive aggressive. No. It's very
passive aggressive overthinkers anonymous.
It's very bless his heart. No, it's just amazing. Is there any quick chats we want to get to real quick before we head out of here?
Yes, please. I think our friend Nathan Ballard, who is a CFI instrument teacher, CFII, he says, if anyone has plans to be a pro pilot, spend the time to know the IFR material, not just pass the check writer written. And I agree with this. Again, you never know when this knowledge is going to come up and you're going to need it. So, thanks, Nathan. That's like, hey, you might as well just said, if anybody's looking to be an actual pilot, pro pilot, you should turn this off and not listen to anything that was just said.
He's just saying there are no C's that get degrees here. That's what he just said to us.
Oh yeah,
right?
he's been going through it, so he knows.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's awesome. And he did say he's logging quad dual for this session, which is pretty funny.
If he's doing that, then he needs to send a check.
Well, it's absolute hazard pay if he's logging any time here.
I guess we should just offer it for free.
Well,
I really don't want to. I don't want my name on that check. I don't want any responsibility for that at all.
Very cool.
This has not been sponsored by the FSDO, and we appreciate everybody being a part of the conversation. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I've actually kind of learned some things, and I just want to make sure everybody knows to stick around. But Ben, because we got a double header coming, so everybody stick around in the chat.
Yep. Everybody stick around. Listen, everything is on our website, midlifepilotpodcast.com. You can leave us feedback. You can tell us what kind of idiots we are. You can buy merch. It's all on there. So go visit our website. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/@midlifepilotpodcast. Go over there and give us a like. Give us a follow. We would really appreciate it. Tonight's bit of wisdom is IFR related. It's not real IFR until the sweat soaks your checklist. So, signing off, episode 143 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.